Hello again there, everyone. There we go. This is Jeff again, otherwise known as the Economic Prepper, stopping by for a video, probably a couple today. Um, wasn't feeling so great last week, so I didn't get too much out, but I'm going to try and put these out. I'm going to put them out on the usual YouTube, of course. But I think we're going to start moving away from that platform because it just doesn't work for a lot of what we got to say, and it's just blocking people out. So we're going to put it on Rumble. We're going to put it up on X as well. Hopefully you're following me there. The link will be in the description for all that stuff. But let's dig into the topic right away, which is it's going to be about gold. We're going to get to gold and Bitcoin and all that stuff. It'll get to crypto, but I think a lot of people need to know a little bit about history. And I'm going to go through some of the history of the banking in the United States and why the gold is so important and why we need to move away from it. It could very well be two parts. I don't want to go too fast, but I also don't want to make it too long. So if you like this kind of content, like, share, subscribe, all that cool stuff. You know what to do. Hit the notification bell. It helps out the channel. I got a little note card to remind me of little things, but I'm pretty much able to do this but from memory. So let's just go over the history of the United States. First off, before we were even a country, back when we were in colonies, the British wanted us to use their currency, which is why they were able to tax the colonies. Remember that whole Boston Tea Party, dumping tea into the harbor? It was over taxes, and it was like 3% tax. It was crazy. It was not even that much. So this is why a lot of people you'll see and they're talking about, including myself, which is that we're being taxed to death. And this is what happened 250 plus years ago, which led to the Revolutionary War. So part of the reason that we are no longer a colony of Britain is because of taxes and government and them wanting to push their banking system upon us. So what happened was when we had the Revolutionary War and we had the Constitutional Convention in 1789. A couple of years later, I mean, we got the documents now. We got the Declaration of Independence, 1776. We had the Constitution, that's 1789. A couple of years later, 1792, they set up the Coinage Act. They set up the first national bank, which was a big issue back then. They were like, should we have a national bank or not? Well, they decided, hey, let's do it for 20 years. They gave them a 20-year charter. Didn't go well. They ended it, which, if you do the math, 1792 plus 20 years, 1812. Ever hear of the War of 1812? That was Britain. Now, think of a jilted lover here, somebody who's like when we are not familiar with what happens when colonists revolt and say we don't want to be part of you anymore. But imagine if, say, California or Texas or somebody said we want to go out, and they created a war. They went to battle over it. So they went to battle. Fortunately for the United States, the War of 1812 was not too long, and we got out of that. But we wound up in the second national bank. That was the second national bank, and that caused its own problems too. And excuse me, Alexander Hamilton was in favor of both. Excuse me, but Andrew Jackson wasn't. So Andrew Jackson, when he ran for president in the 1830s, I think he was elected in 1832. He said he wanted to end the bank, and that was like one of his last words, like, I ended the bank. So that was the last time we had a central bank in the United States up until the Civil War. The Civil War in the 1860s, you know, Lincoln was trying to save a lot of things. He was trying to fix the country. I just dropped my card. 1 second. There we go. All right. Probably won't need it, but I just want to hold on to it. So Lincoln, 1860s, he declared the slaves free, Gettysburg Address, all that good stuff. 4-year war. The part a lot of people miss is that 4 years, you got the North and the South. They had to be funded by somebody, and with everybody fighting, there wasn't a lot of production going on in the United States. So Europe did a lot of the funding, which many people believe that's why the Act of 1871, selling D.C. to Britain, caused a lot of problems. I'm not going to get into that. I can get into all that. That's probably not on the YouTube platform. But you should know what the Act of 1871 is. But I'm going to focus on the banking here. After, part of what Lincoln wanted to do was go back to a sound money system. He wanted to create the greenback. That's part of the reason he got assassinated. And which led to Reconstruction after the war, 1865. There's a lot going on, but there was no central bank. So with the Reconstruction era from 1870 to 1900, very prosperous time in the Americas, most productive. Yes, there were banking issues, so they knew the banking sector needed to be addressed. Jekyll Island happened in around 1900. There were lots of bank concerns and panics, and there were lots of elites that were trying to get back and get that another charter bank going. So they met on Jekyll Island around the turn of the century, a little bit after 1900s. A lot of leaders went down to Jekyll Island. They set up the plan for the Federal Reserve. A few of them took a boat ride in the Titanic, and you know what happened there. Funny how the people that were opposed to the Federal Reserve were on the boat, and whether it was the Titanic or not, that's another video I can make. Leave a comment down below if you want to see those kinds of videos, like what happened. Was it really Titanic? I can go into that. I've done it before. I can do that again. Banking, 1913. Okay, Woodrow Wilson was tricked around winter break of Congress to push through the Federal Reserve Act, which launched the Federal Reserve, and then later on they ratified it was the 16th or 17th Amendment, which was, a little tricky about the income tax. I think it was the 17th. Anyway, we led to the third national bank of the United States, which is the Federal Reserve, which did not have a 20-year charter. It had no end to it. So that's what's happened. Now, I'm 6 minutes in. I'm going to try and wrap this up in 3 more minutes. Like I said, I can go deeper if you want, but you need to understand the history a little bit because it leads to where we're heading and the gold in the Federal Reserve. 1913, the U.S. goes on to the Federal Reserve dollar, the Federal Reserve note. They're going to make our currency now. World War I we get pulled into. World War II we get pulled into. At that point, after World War II, everyone pretty much realizes that the U.S. has the most gold, the biggest army. Basically, the dollar should be in charge. That happens. They meet in Bretton Woods. I think it's New Hampshire. The dollar becomes the reserve currency officially. They had tried it back and forth with the British pound throughout World War I, World War II, but everybody in Europe was off the gold reserve. The only one that was still on it was the U.S. So the dollar was still backed by gold, even in the 40s. Now, they did have reconfiscation in 1930s because when they went, sorry to go back a little bit, but when they launched the Federal Reserve in 1913, some of what happened there, I won't go through all the details, but it led to the Great Depression. And in 1933, as part of the way out of that, FDR confiscated gold. You weren't allowed to own gold anymore, and they revalued it from, it was originally, it was $14 per ounce. They gave people $21, and they revalued it to $35, which boosted the value on the books for the U.S. of how much gold they had, because all of a sudden they had lots more, plus they went from $14 to $35. I mention that now because the last time the gold was changed, I think it was in the 50s or 60s. I have to check on that, but might even been the 40s. But it was like $45 an ounce, and that's still where it's valued on the books. So fast forward, 1944, world reserve currency for the U.S. dollar. Then they start pushing the dollar all around the planet. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. They pushed the dollar all over the planet, and they fear countries getting wise that they're printing more dollars than what they have, and there's not enough gold to back it all. France and other countries in Europe started to pull back some of the gold from the U.S., and that's when we left the gold standard in the 1970s, but also set up the petrodollar to back up OPEC for the next 50 years and say, we'll defend your countries if you only take dollars for oil. So now we're on the petrodollar instead of the gold dollar, but everybody still loves the dollar, still the world currency. Issue after issue after issue. Now we get to today where we're still wondering, we're wondering all about the government spending. We're wondering what's in Fort Knox. We're wondering where is the gold, because all these different central banks across the globe, Bank of England, Bank of Japan, Bank of China, the U.S., they were all repatriating gold and try to build up their coffers. Why? Because there's a lot of derivatives and paper products selling gold that's backed by nothing, kind of like a naked short. It's it's not quite the same as the Big Short, but it's a good movie to go watch. Think of it as selling something you don't have. It's like you're selling an IOU. So there are lots of IOUs for gold all float around the planet. Some say there's over 1,000 IOUs for every ounce. So that's why physical possession is going to matter the most, because like I said, in 1933, they revalued gold. If the gold is still here, lots of things can be done, if it's here or if it's not. But in order to make a plan to go forward, you got to figure out where things are at today. So they're going to start by auditing what's in Fort Knox. I'll talk about that, the issues, like there are 4 outcomes that could happen there, and what the issues could be in the next video. But for now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a lesson on the national banks of the U.S., why they're concerned, and why those of us who study Bitcoin or money or silver and gold all wind up in the same destination of learning history and money and Bitcoin and blockchain, because it's all intermixed. So I hope you got something out of this video. I'm going to stay out here and tan a little bit more, make another video too, and I will see you in the next one. And again, if you want to see more content like this or have suggestions, leave in the comments. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.